following announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello there, good evening, welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt, and as you can see, it's a 3-ball a night because up top with me is the OG, my right-hand man, my bearded brother is Paddy Boy, and of course, new also bald friend, Joe Donnelly joins us here. And happy birthday, lads, because it is, well, it's actually just past her birthday, but let's not get tied down in the details. But 1 year, almost to the day, since we fired up this humble wee podcast. So thank you guys. Thank you for getting involved. Thank you for contributing. And thank you for helping this channel grow.
Not a problem, mate. To be fair, you didn't really give me a choice, Steve. You just said, listen, mate, I've got a podcast here. I went on myself. I need you on with me to bounce off it, and we're going to make this a success. So do you know what, mate? Thank you. I've enjoyed every single minute.
Lovely.
The two biggest leatherheads coming together.
And there, even Joe, he just hijacked it, didn't he? Jumped in at the last minute, got yourself involved. That's that. But no, listen, first, as we say, thank you to everybody. It's been a year. It's been a crazy year, as we said in our post we put out there. Plenty of ups, plenty of downs, learning curves, you name it. It's happened, but wouldn't change it for the world. Hopefully, here's to another good year. And firstly, thank you to all 1,596 of you that have taken the time to subscribe and support us. 145 videos during that time, well over 100,000 views. And listen, I know this doesn't sound like a lot to some of the big boys out there, but when you break that down, we are more than happy with that because I said we start this podcast, we didn't know exactly where it was going to go. And the fact that so many people have wanted to get involved and keep returning to watches, then that is fantastic. But that makes me want to say one thing. Why are you not subscribed yet? Because, by the way, it's almost double yous that watch it that haven't hit that subscribe button. So go down there, hit that wee subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and support the channel. You want to help us out, membership, $1.99, helps put it together. Get us on X at CWO Pod. Paddy does the TikTok. Joe, I don't know what you do yet, mate, but we'll find you something to do and we'll make it happen. So plenty of ways to support the channel. So, guys, listen, it's been a while since we've been on. Loads of stuff to talk about. News, overdue news that's happened, positive stuff, and sort of dark circumstances, you want to call it that. We also have a game to talk about. We've got injury updates. We've got league reconstruction. And then we've also got, apparently, we missed out on trying to sign a player. What does it all mean? Do you know what I mean? So, Paddy, let's get right down to the business. Let's get down to the thick end of this, right? We heard from the manager. We had his wee standard press conference, and we got some long overdue injury updates. Now, obviously, we know the game against Hearts. We had a few guys returning. We had Forrest. We had Bernardo. It was good to see that, nice and positive. We had Sinisalo in the sticks because of Kasper Schmeichel. And we've heard now, finally, that apparently it's going to be in the range of 5 to 6 weeks for the big man to be coming back in between the sticks. That would put him right in contention, potentially for a cup final return. But according to the manager, Casp, as he calls him, expects that he could be back sooner. Brilliant news to hear that, because that potentially, to me, I was worrying that could be a career ender, mate.
Yeah, it was a bad injury, and when you look at the age of Casper, obviously it's going to take him a little bit of time to come back for things like this. But listen, I thought Sinisalo had a great game. Obviously, we'll get down to talking about the Hearts game. I thought he's come in and he's held his own. He done well. So going forward from it, yes, Casper will be missed for what he gives and things like that. But this is a chance for the young lad to prove himself, to put himself out there and try and cement his own spot. We've seen it before with David Marshall when he came in against Barcelona, if you remember back to that, and took over, basically. I'm not saying that's going to be what happens here, but it's an opportunity, it's a chance for this young lad to get in and get some time under his belt.
No, I mean, Joe, I thought what I seen him was we'll get on the game further down. We'll cover the new stuff at the front end there. Yep. But I thought Sinisalo looked good. But Kasper Schmeichel, it was very good to hear that was going to be the case. Of course, we then got the standard, which I heard the rumblings of. Apparently, there's certain players that were looking and getting as an emergency loan, guys that were out of contract to cover it. But the guys at Sinisalo here, he was brought in, obviously, we heard the manager talking about him, spoke very highly of him, says, you know, that's exactly why we brought him in, because we see class in him, we see potential, and essentially he's here to stay. It's a bad day, isn't it, if you're looking to try and get an emergency loan, to pad out the options. I mean, if anything, it says, what does it say about the Baniac, if you're talking about that? So
I know. Listen, as you say yourself, we'll get onto it and we'll talk about Sinisalo's performance. But as I thankfully rightly predicted, it seems like he has been, you know, he's been listening to and watching Kasper Schmeichel very, very closely, and he's been training with him well. And I think he filled that role very, very well. So I don't see why we need to go out of the pool.
It was good. It was good, as we say, we'll cover that. But it's a great opportunity for him here. In terms of Kasper Schmeichel, see if he's come back, we're talking maybe 5-6 weeks, and there's potential that he could be playing in a cup final should we get that far. I'm very much of the opinion that no. See if Sinisalo comes in and plays well and earns his keep, you've got to play the guy right through the end of the season. It's unfortunate it's happened to Kasper Schmeichel, but it is what it is. But positive news there for the manager in terms of the return timeframes, I say, because we were kind of worrying they were going to be going out during the summer, scrambling about as Celtic do, wanting to bring in potentially another goalkeeper. So if it's going to be that short term, then that extension with Kasper will happen. If Sinisalo comes in, plays well, we'll get to see a right good look at him and see what he's made of. Bain is just going to be Bain, still remain as the resident DJ inside the dressing room, stealing a wage and all that. But what you're going to do is he's there for the international quota, the Scottish quota. But other news there that was quite good as well, we've got the return of Forrest. You were loving that, Joe, as we know. Bernardo, again, you don't know what you've got until it's not there, but also Liam Scales. He says that he expects that he should be back in contention for the Kilmarnock match. He's in non-contact training at the moment. It's just good, innit? They have these options, Joe, coming back in to the squad at such a critical point. I know we're only, 2 games or so away from it, but when you're charging on for a treble, you want to have all the options there, mate.
Absolutely. I mean, Scales, as much as he's had issues and whatnot, he is still a good option, I think. You know, he may not be number one, but at the same time, he has played well over the season in a whole, I think. So I don't think we can complain about that. And if he comes back in for the Kilmarnock game, I'll be more than happy with that. That'd be lovely.
100%. It's really positive, who says, Granite. We've got a game at St Johnstone. We'll probably have one wee eye on that at the end after we talk about the Hearts game. But yeah, the fixtures are coming thick and fast. We're pushing on, motoring on, trying to secure the league, working towards a treble. Right time of year, players back. And obviously, as we saw with the game against Hearts, a wee bit of a Springer step, had to bounce back after that defeat to Rangers. And it was 3. Could have been 4, could have been 5. It looked as if we were just motoring, cruising. We could have went through the gears. But one of those guys that just continues to go through the gears, Paddy, is the man that shuts over my shoulder, Daizen Maeda. And the manager was rightfully gushing over him in his press conferences. His wee special interviews, as they call it there, that we get for the Celtic TV. Having a wee look at him, mate. I mean, we're getting bored now, waxing lyrical with the man, but for the season, top SPFL goal scorer, 15 goals, 7 assists. Overall, he's 30 and 9. There's still plenty of football to be played. Is he going to hit that magical 40? Well, you wouldn't bet against him. Having a wee look through him, Champions League, he's breaking records, 4 goals, 1 assist, 6 goals, 1 assist in the League Cup and 5 in the Scottish Cup as well. Mate, and another brilliant performance at the weekend. It was 2 goals, probably could have been 3. Bear in mind he hits the post before Jota taps home. It's imperative now, more than it ever has been, to try and tie him down. Contract's up in the summer of 2027, and you heard the way the manager was talking, saying about singing his praises, that he's the complete player. I agree with you, Brendan, but don't give other folk ideas.
Yeah,
that's it.
Listen, 100%. And Jota put out a little interview there as well when they asked him about Daizen, and he basically said the exact same thing. He's pressing, what he does. Yes, going forward, he's fantastic, but he's fantastic going back as well. What was it Brendan says? He's the only guy that runs with a smile on his face. And you see that, you see it so many times. And he's running down the wing and he's tracking back 80 yards and he's smiling away. He's happy to be there. He's happy to be out on the pitch and be running about. And I've said it so many times on here, he must be absolute carnage to deal with as a defender. You don't know how to deal with somebody like that, because the press, like you say, Steve, the gears, it just goes up and down the gears so much. Do you know what I mean? He's an absolute icon of a player. He's at that stage now where he's pushing on. Simon Donnelly said he'd get the 40 goals. He was on the Celtic TV, and Simon Donnelly said, listen, he'll get 40 goals this season. He's like, I'll put my neck on the line, and listen, it wouldn't surprise me if he did. It really wouldn't.
We sat there and we spoke about this. How many times we revisited this? We're like, can you actually believe that that's what we've got now? I really thought that with the comments that the manager was making, now I'm going to call out Brendan a wee bit here, because I think he was telling a wee bit of porkies, if I'm totally honest with you, because they asked him words to the effect of, did you think that he could have been this striker through the middle? And he goes on, he says about, if you track my words and comments on Maeda all the way back, almost as if, by the way, I was telling you he was a striker. No, you weren't, Brendan. You absolutely were not. Don't talk crap, mate, right? When we saw Kyogo, you're telling us, you kind of shunted it to the side, maybe being smart because you didn't want to let on that you had something there and they wouldn't get a replacement. But I'm not buying that, mate. I'm not buying that. He's obviously pointed out that when he brings him in, or when we've had him with his credentials for Japan, theoretically, he shows that he can be a striker. But maybe Brendan's doing what Brendan does at times, and he's jumping on the positive PR, and it's I knew all along. Don't doubt me.
Well, you look at it before when he come in, Steve. Well, you said it on here previous times. When he was at Yokohama, he was the top goal scorer. He came over here as the Golden Boot winner.
Yeah, that's right.
Plays through the middle for Japan. So you would say that's his more preferred position. It just so happened that when he came in at Celtic, we had two strikers in these positions, and he's played on the wing. And listen, when he first came in, we've slated him for it. He looked very raw. He looked like he couldn't finish, but you always seen the intent. You always seen the motor inside of him. We said it before. He's like a speedboat with no steering wheel. He just goes.
Mate, he's found a steering wheel. He's found a rudder. He's found a
rudder, mate. Yeah, he's definitely have. He's got the finish there as well.
You look at the weekend, and the manager says that's the one thing that was saying, Joe, in that conversation, was how brilliant his movement are. He's like, everybody talks about his intensity. Everybody talks
about the way he reads it on him.
But look at what he does on and off the ball. The run for the first, as he says, when he's charging forward for that first goal, it's a brilliant ball for Cal McGregor. Again, a guy that will go on and we touch on the game. But he actually has to check his run twice to make sure that he's on before getting in. Brilliant movement. The second one, brilliant movement to the front post. Hits the post for Jota to tap home. And then obviously the third one, starting touch space and darts to the forward, darts to the back, taps it in. He just looks like a complete striker, and I kind of joked, and I said when I was watching the game, I said, big Maeda sitting on the bench just going all over himself because in that form, chances aren't getting good, are they?
It's frightening his spatial awareness for me. Like, could I run 40 yards first of all? No, probably not.
You can run up the stairs.
Exactly, but to be able to do it at his pace, and to be able to read and see where every single player is and know when he's on or off or whatever else it may be as soon as it comes off the foot of someone else, it's frightening. The awareness that he has as he's playing is enough to put the fear in any other team, and that's what he does best. And, you see the sheer panic on every keeper that comes up against him as soon as he starts going there.
Yep.
All of a sudden they're locked up in their own box. It's fantastic. We cannot fault anything that he's done, I don't think, this season. Not a single bit.
See, in terms of the Maeda thing, obviously the manager's now fully on the Maeda trainer. That I never thought that he wasn't, but I mean, in terms of through the middle as a striker, seeing what we've got there, I just feel that he really, really suits the way we want to play. He's got that speed. He's got that awareness. He's moving. He's found just multiple levels in his game. As the manager says, he's in a right good spot at this moment, personally, professionally, and it's imperative that we keep him on. So he's tied down to 2027, so still the best bit of 2 seasons there, but the vultures could be sniffing about. But I think the thing here, Paddy, is where do you expect us when the summer comes to go in terms of looking around at a striking option here? Because we need to get another striker. There's no doubt about that. But will that slightly pivot and shift the goalposts on what we're looking at. I heard the rumour mill again, of course it's the rumour mill, that the interest in Christgården, which was a long-standing thing, even up as far as January, might be slightly cooling off because of the emergence of Daizen Maeda. I don't want us to kind of backtrack because we've got something there, but with the question marks and the uncertainty and certainly the fee and the outlay that we paid for Adam Maeda, now that we've got Maeda doing this, I think we're maybe going to pivot and look for more winger covers, bringing in maybe a developmental striker.
Yeah, I think Daizen's going to be the out and out. I think you can't not do it. If you look at the stats since February, what was it, 15 goals in 11 games or 12 games or something, was it, Brendan had said?
Yes.
It's a ridiculous stat, and it's the numbers that you want for your strikers. Obviously, Adam Maeda, he's there. We've paid the money for him. He is a Celtic fan. Do I think he'll come good? I think we'll get what we've paid for. I think we'll get a bit out of him. I don't think we're ever going to be relying on him. I don't think he's that type of player. So going forward from it, I think bringing in another winger, potentially yes, because obviously we're going to need that versatility. The wingers that we've got in a minute chop and change, they swap about. You say there about a Brendan Rodgers team and playing the way a Brendan Rodgers team plays. You think back to his team at Liverpool, it was the triple S up front, wasn't it? It was Sturridge, Sterling and Suarez.
Yes.
Now, I'm not comparing our players to them, but it's a similar type situation when you think about it, the pace and the skill, and you've got the guy through the middle who's basically the finisher. Suarez obviously wasn't as rapid as what Daizen is, but he was a finisher. You give that lad the ball and he would score a goal. It's as simple as that. So then obviously you'd Sterling and Sturridge on the other wings creating the opportunities. Now we've got Kun and Jota doing the exact same. And if we've got Daizen, like you said, in the middle, timing the runs, the runs were timed to perfection. You seen him holding off, and then bang, he's there. And it's chaos for defenders. It's a joy to watch.
The one thing I really like about him is the composure levels now. Yeah. He takes a touch and it's assured. He's side foot and a lot of goals. He's just stroking them in the corner, casual. You know, Gary Hooper-esque, dare I say it. But that's the thing that's the big thing for me. Yeah, we're talking about the touches get better. He's not having to do a lot of crossing, thankfully. That might actually be brilliant by him if we've seen it yet. But he just looks so much more calmer and composed. Season's gone by, he's snatching those chances, he's launching at it, he's putting it in Rose's head, but he's really settled in. And yeah, I just think it gives us a great option as a main striker. And actually, as much as I am, hoping that Maeda comes good and becomes the next big striker that's going to be the main guy we depend on to lead the line, I'm quite enjoying this. I'm quite enjoying this that we've got. And if something isn't broke, don't go and try and fix it. Fix it by making sure you sign him and keep him. That's what I'm saying, Joe.
No, I totally agree. We've got to make sure we keep him on for as long as possible. Now, he might not want to be too much further than 2027, but I'd like to hope that, as we've said, and even as the manager said as well, that he's a lot more comfortable in this setting and he suits the high pressure football that we tend to play as well. That intensity of getting the ball out fast as anything, and it suits his gameplay as well. I think he would struggle to find that at a lot of other teams, even your big names and everything as well. He would really struggle to gel that well with a lot of them because they'd be very set in their ways and be very traditional, if you will.
I think that's one of the things that with Maeda that I've really noticed. We often speak about players being instrumental to certain sides and defining the way they play. Irreplaceable gets thrown around a lot. I genuinely do believe that it's possibly the first player in a long, long time that, based on current form, the last season, I genuinely would say is irreplaceable. I don't think that we find, and I don't actually think we've had, I'm sure, let me know if you've got in the comments a thought on it, I don't think we've had a striker that's been on this level of form. I'm taking Larson out of the equation, don't come in with Larson, right? But who has just been so devastating, not just in terms of recent running of form and scoring goals, but almost like a complete package. That unstoppable energy levels and just the sheer chaos that he's bringing. His game really is complete at this moment in time. And I don't think in recent years I've at least seen somebody that's been that indispensable. Even Kyogo at points wasn't as devastating as Maeda has been over the past 5-6 months.
What about Pookie or Ali Adair? I mean, guys like this.
Amido Balde, indispensable.
It's spot on, mate, honestly. You look at his stats, you look at the numbers, you look at what he's doing. He's the first name in that team sheet every single week. And Brendan says that the manager sings his praises every single week. And if you watched his interview after the Hearts game as well, and I was saying about him getting 2 goals, and he says, yeah, next week he'll get 3. That's the attitude. That's what I want to see from my strikers. That's
it's
the
confidence, and it's got a wee bit of slight arrogance in it. I like that.
Yeah,
but it's.
I see at the end of the day, though, I think he's definitely going to go down as one of Celtic's legends. 100%. He has
to.
He'll
go down as a great, definitely.
Well, he's hit the 150 appearances. He's in that club, you know what I mean? And he's scored a ton, so he's got to keep on going on. But really positive. But as we say, listen, it's for down the summer there. Decisions to be made. We definitely do not strike, we do not signing to come in and fill that void. Who's it going to be? What's that going to look like? Well, that will remain to be seen, because obviously, as we know, Maeda's kicking on. Can either start to find a wee bit of form in the remaining games, find some goals, and again, bring yourself back into contention. But on the signing thing, I don't know if you saw this. This was one that I found that, again, very strange, came out of nowhere. We've always been sitting talking, haven't we, about get your business done early, start laying the pipework, get somebody agreements in place so that whenever the transfer window opens, boom, there it is, have some of that. Now, it turns out, according to multiple reports, that Celtic were in for the Georgian international midfielder, I'm probably going to butcher his name here, but Georgi Kornashashvili, who plays at Levante. 25-year-old Georgian international, 19 senior caps, multiple levels throughout the youth system with him. 19 senior caps for Georgia, 3 goals, playing his trade at Levante. Currently, he's had La Liga experience, Copa del Rey, good standard. And it turns out, apparently, that he's now going to go to Sporting Lisbon, 5 million with a 12.5% sell-on fee. This, to me, it's positive to see. It's disappointing when I looked at his profile and certainly his experience. 170 appearances for him, 16 goals, 8 assists, career that is. He looks like the type of player that you want. 25, good age, good experience.
Yeah.
Midfielder, which again, people might turn around and say we're overridden with that, but a wee bit more combative, which I like. Disappointing that we've missed out. It says that Celtic had thrown a quote last-minute approach to try and secure the deal, which spurred Sporting Lisbon into action to get him over the line on a pre-contract. Yes, you will sign when the window opens. Bit of a weird one, but potentially good to see, Paddy, that we're trying to get some irons in the fire nice and early.
Yeah, it is, but like in typical Celtic fashion, if we went in there with £1 million and 2 Rammies, 2 ginger bottles, is that kind of what we've done here? You know what Celtic are like. We'll go in there and we'll try and undercut and try and steal the player for buttons. If we recognise a player in a position that we need, then I think we need to, like we've done before, Steve, we'll just throw the book at it and just say, right, how much you want from 5 million? No problem, there's a 5 million. That's absolutely fine, because if we're going to be getting international footballers, whether it's Georgia or Germany, it doesn't matter. He's an international footballer. You don't get to play for your country by being garbage, let's face it. Yep. So this guy's playing alongside the boy Kvaratskhelia as well, who's probably
phenomenal,
one of the best players in the world.
I was watching him.
He's fantastic. You'd watch him all day, wouldn't you?
Oh, unbelievable. I actually didn't realise how good he was, by the way.
Yeah, right. that Georgia team is pretty decent. Midfield, they look solid enough. Like you said, Steve, he's playing for Levante. He's playing in probably one of the best leagues in the world. He's played in the Copa del Rey. He's playing against teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid every single week. Do you know what I mean? You're playing against a decent standard, and coming into the SPL, it's going to be a bit of a step down for him if you think about it, but it's going to be a big opportunity for him. So, listen, guys like that are where we should be looking. I want to bring in international known players.
Yeah. Is the midfield, though, somewhere that we do need someone?
Well, this comes off the back. This comes off the back very much off like, we've been saying this now for the best bit of a season or that. There's still a groundswell of rumour that Hatate's going to be the one to go. Now, again, not trying to sell any of our players. He has been lukewarm at times. Recently came on to a bit more of a game. Looks more like his familiar self, but and I'm not going to get down that body language crap, but one thing I did notice that I went, oh, don't like the looks of that, and it could have been nothing, but it's just about perception. I don't know if you saw after Hatate came off, it was the arms folded and was trudging up the tunnel. I'm like, do you know what? And this is the thing that with Hatate, yes, I know his form's been choppy and the injury and stuff like that, but for every game he looks interested, there's another games that he looks like, to put it frank, he couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that, and I said this when we had this conversation earlier in the season, I would love Hatate, all fire in Hatate, to still be part of it and expand that midfield options and build on it. But if he is a guy who's, I don't know, maybe he is in that Kyogo sort of bracket where he's sort of thinking to himself, right, I could be doing more to get in this Japan team. He goes there, he doesn't play a lot. Maybe that says more about the players when we look at Daizen Maeda, who has picked, who has played. But I just felt that he was a guy that's probably reached his lifespan. And I said to you at that time, when he signed, and started playing, do you think he is now a better player than he was at the start? I'm not really convinced. Yeah. And I just feel that as much as I would love to keep him, I wouldn't be losing too much sleep if, and the big if being the point, where I placed him with something like that I've just mentioned there.
No, listen, mate, 100%. Obviously, you know my thoughts on Rio. I think it can be an incredible player. There is definitely that guy in there. But look, you look at it going forward. You get Callum McGregor, who probably get maybe another 2 years left in him at that kind of level. Arnie Engels, obviously, he's our project, £12 million project player who's starting to come good. We've started to see a little bit from him. But for me, if somebody comes in for Hatate and offers maybe upwards of 7 million, then I reckon he's out the door. I really do. You said that, Steve, the body language things. And what I do like to see from him is he's always asking the managers and the coaches about different situations. Every time the camera kind of pans on him after the match, he's talking to the manager and you can see him kind of going over things and pointing to different areas of the park and stuff. And so that shows that he's willing to learn. It shows that he still want to progress, but you don't often see that on the park.
No.
And that's the thing. He's such a frustrating player because you know he's fantastic. You know he's got that killer ball. You know he can just shove players off the ball. And that turn, when the ball comes into him, his control to turn away from players is second to none. But he just doesn't do it on a consistent basis. And that's the thing. Like you said, if you get a Hatate playing the way we know he can play every game, you're not selling him. Not a chance. You say, no, you're going nowhere, pal. And my only fear is if we do get rid of Hatate, it only leaves Daizen Maeda as the Japanese guy there. And then is Daizen going to be a little bit homesick?
There's a few comments coming in around this kind of stuff. And I'll chuck this one down to yourself there. Obviously, Paddy says 7 million right now. I'm way saying from it a bit. It seems 7 does seem low. I think too low. I think, but what I'm saying is I think this is just personal speaking. The 20-25 million boat is in the bin with Hatate as far as I'm concerned. Come the summer, I think when we look at Kyogo, yes, he was older, less mileage in him, but to get 10 million there, I'm not trying to sell players just for the benefit of discussion. What do you think if he were to go? And it does, if we're honest, you can always identify one player that you think's eventually going to go. Yes, it came out in nowhere when Kyogo went, but there was the heavy talk that they thought he was the one that was going to go. Yeah. And now the Hatate thing keeps swirling around. Where are you at with that one, Joe? What do you think realistically, if he were to be the one, what could Celtic command for
him? We know it's all performance based anyway. So his latest performance, I think, doesn't merit any more than 7 million, if I'm being honest. Because and don't get me wrong, I think his own frustration is what's led him down that kind of path of, not getting to the ball when he needs to, not turning it like Paddy says, and not being the Hatate that we know he can be. I think his own frustration has caused that to happen, really. that he's got in his own way, if you will, and that I don't see him being worth any more than that at the minute. Doesn't mean he can't be. I think if we tried to command between 8 and 9, I think is fair, and someone would probably come in at 7, and we'd likely let him go for that because of his performances, as I say, as of late. Could change. We all know that. That's what happens in football.
Of course.
He could all of a sudden give himself a shake, but it seemed that way on Saturday, as you say, when he's went away and he's been a bit of a huff. I think it was actually that he was more frustrated at his own performance, and he knows that he can do better than that.
Do you know, I brought this up here because of Brown Wallace's, and I actually, to an extent, and Strange Love's disagreeing, that's the great, everybody's entitled to Prince Springman. I do see slight similarities in the two. At times unplayable, and then at other times very much meh, what you getting. I just feel that for me, that Hatsute is one of the guys who's probably his optimum point to sell. What that value is going to be remains to be seen. I reckon at Celtic at this moment in time, based on current form, get no more than £10 million from that. That's just me, honestly, there. And I think that, yes, I'd love to keep him. I'd love him to, turn house on fire again, fully shooting, back to his best. And of course, that would have dual positives. One, great, I'd have that in your team, but 2, further down the line, increase the value and all that kind of stuff. No try to sell the guy, but that's just where I think it is there. But I agree. There's ones where, as he's saying, he bosses a lot, and then there's others that it's kind of no so. But again, we're not trying to sell the guy here. Yeah. But in terms of Henry, the name Miller keeps on coming up. I would take a punt at that. I would definitely take a punt at that. However, it's again, I like to look at the Georgian guy, if that was someone in simply for profile, for experience. I think we need to find that balancing act, because we've got Arne Engels, who's still very young, as we well know. Lennon Miller, again, would be younger, or I think it might be of ages thereabouts. Bernardo, he's one of the more seasoned younger guys, if you want to call it that. And we've got Luke McCowan. But yeah, I just feel that if we're going to keep on looking at midfielders, somebody has got to go, and it could well be Hatsute. But as we say, we'll cross these bridges when we get round there. Just wanted to throw that out there because of the links that were brought up to the Georgian chart there. Yeah. Speaking of things that might change, Paddy, league reconstruction, right? Now, yes. I had a wee look at it, and I don't know. They're saying it's due to fixture congestion. We've got the new reformatted, longer style Champions League setup, which would obviously reduce times we could have midweek games, or we would maybe normally have them. We've obviously got internationals, which did a bit of a strange setup last time. Domestic cups, blah, blah, blah. Now, what do you think of this? The proposals are, and there's apparently 3, which means there's just hundreds of options, and they have no really got a clue. Let's not kid ourselves on here. The first one is a reduction to a 10-team league where, wait to hear this, this is going to stop your congestion, where you'll play 36 games instead of 38. Fucking mind-blowing stuff, by the way. Strap yourself in, right? Right? No split, and you'll play each team 4 teams. Old school, right? Now, I like that. I did like that. But let's be honest here. It's all about money. It's all about people's getting their purse strings tightened up. And it's all about that TV coin. One, if you're a team that think, by the way, we're going to finish in the top 6, you're getting an arc crack at Celtic, you're getting an arc crack at Rangers, you're on the telly, so you're getting more money. That's the facts here, right? And equally, if you are elsewhere, you're like, no, geese it, because we'll get 4 games against them. So it's going to be one of those divides where the elite clubs are going to shut that one down. The other options are expanding to a 16 or a 14. But ultimately, as I say, any decision on this restructuring is going to be about getting round the table. All member clubs will need to agree, because you're either dropping down or you're bringing folk up, complete restructuring across it. It would be a radical restructure, but also they're going to have to go and speak to Mr. Sky, Mr. TNT, and all the other 900 people have got a wee bit of telly wedge in it. Paddy, am I being a bit stupid here? Is the simple solution not to just maybe make the season slightly longer? and avoid all that
of course
shit.
it is. Of course it is. That would be the logical explanation if you're going to space things out and give the bigger teams time for European football. But I watched a podcast a while ago, and it was a guy called John Toner. He does the Low Ball Show, I think it's called. And John had on Alan Smith. And he was talking to Alan about it, and obviously he was in charge of the SFA at one point, and he had said that he had actually proposed this a long time ago, and it was in order to help out the teams in the lower divisions. And it basically proposed, obviously, your Premier League having, I think it was 16 teams, and then you would have two other leagues. You would have a North League and a South League, basically, or a kind of North and a Central Belt League, essentially. And it would have between 12 and 16 teams in each of them. And he proposed this, and it was basically laughed out. They were like, no, we're not changing it. Nothing like that's going to happen. And now you look at things, and our wee team, our local team, Albion Rovers, they've been demoted to the Lowland Leagues.
And they're actually they're actually the fold, yes.
Yeah,
and it's horrible to see. You look at Dumbarton, another incredible club. One of the guys that we've had on here, Murdo McLeod. Murdo's doing an incredible job there, raising money to help them basically stay afloat. And they're running week to week. And it's sad to see, and you don't want to see any teams fold. So I think that coming in, my opinion on it, I would like to see a 16-team league. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see it kind of spread out a little bit, see the money spread to all of the other kind of teams. The Championship's really hard to get out of. You look at the teams in there just now, and the teams fighting for promotion, and it's madness.
To jump in on that, Paddy, do you think that when we look down now, I always look at the Championship, I'm maybe showing my age here. Some will say, you're not that old. I'll be 40 at the weekend, so old enough. But I look at some of the teams that are down there, and I always think to myself, I always think Falkirk, I always think, further down the leagues, obviously we'll get Dunfermline, I think, Partick Thistle. I always associate them with being Premier League teams.
Good teams, aye.
Do you think there's an appetite for a slightly larger team? Even just going to the 14? Again, it's all down to what the TV beaks want, isn't it? But
listen,
do we need reconstruction? Is it vital to do this? And is it going to resolve fixture, recongestion? Because, as I say, maybe I'm showing the boreness here. We took out the winter break. Folk complained, right? But look at the English League. It runs on slightly longer. They play a lot of midweek games.
Yeah.
Can we not just have a slightly longer period of run and just extend the gaps in between?
Yeah, you look at the way the German leagues are ran, the Serie A and things like that. I mean, when you're going into a Champions League game or a European game, these guys are getting the week off. These guys are super prepared going into that, and Celtic are having to play on a Saturday, a Wednesday, and then a Sunday. And the teams that you're coming up against are obviously getting longer periods of time off. And I think we do need to restructure. I think it's something that really does need to be looked at. I like the idea that Quinny says there about making Tier 2 a 24, basically, team mega league. That would be a great shout. Again, it gets the smaller teams in there.
What's your thoughts, Paddy, on doing something more radical, like we see in, I think, is it the Belgian league, but they have like the regular phase, then the championship phase, where you get like your tallies halved and you go again type of thing. Is that just stupidity? Is that just gimmicky? Is it just quite as simple as bring more teams in, make it look more appealing? But again, I can understand maybe some of the things where certain teams can't even pull a decent crowd as it is. You want to add another 2, you want to add another 4 into the mix. If you're sitting there and you're St Johnstone, you can't fill your own stands to play Celtic. What chance have you got to try and fill it against Ayr, Partick Thistle, whoever it may be?
The thing is, I mean, nobody wants to go and see their team get gubbed. Let's be honest. Nobody. These St Johnstone fans are sitting there and they're looking, going, Celtic at the weekend, 3 games to Celtic win the league. I'm not going to go watch that. They're going to scud us. And that's probably their mentality, their way of thinking. They're not going into that going, we might take some points off of them. Whereas if they're playing teams like maybe you said they're Ayr United, Ayr United would probably scud them at this minute as well. But let's be honest, they're looking at that game going, we might get something from that. And I think having that longer league, having all of the kind of teams in, I think it'd be a better setup, and I think it would entice a lot more fans to go to the games.
Yeah.
I really do.
I totally agree with Paddy. And one point I wanted to come on to anyway was actually at the weekend there, a lot of people have resigned to the fact of, well, Celtic are going to win, so that's that kind of thing. I've seen a lot of empty seats, and that's if we're going to win.
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't be happening at all. So Paddy's spot on the money there with St Johnstone Air, whoever it may be. You're going to have the stands filling up that bit more when you think that you're in with a right good chance.
Yeah.
And it's not just about promotion, it's about getting the wins, getting them under your belt, getting a wee bit of extra money. And if anything, I think it's actually going to be beneficial for the TV channels, and they won't see it that way, I know.
Yeah.
But if you've got somebody in there paying for Sky instead. Then...
One thing that I would scrap personally is the playoff rounds for promotion and surviving the chop. I just think that it's a nonsense. I think that we should have, if there's two going down, or potential one goes down, one potentially goes down, just bin the two of them. Because I think it removes the safety net in the same way that we've done with the Champions League, where we've taken out the drop down stuff, where it's like, couldn't get through the Champions League group stage, so at least I got a crack at that one, and so on. So cut the cord. There is no drop down. There is no parachute. So see if you're in the bottom two, you're in the bin, right? Because the reality is, 9 on 10 times, that professional team in the upper league usually beats the other team that's vying to come up. It's usually just the way it pans out. And I think even that in its own might prompt teams to just be that little bit better. Maybe invest a wee bit of that small amount of cashes that they'll get and try to achieve and try to be better. Just having that hanging over you, I think, would shake up what the bottom half of the table looks like, and by result, make it a wee bit more competitive in itself, Paddy.
Yeah, no, listen, 100%. And I think we should take a few pointers from down south as well. And if teams, like I've said about Albion Rovers, when they got demoted to the Lowland League as well, and they basically get demoted there, and they're like, right, try and make your way back up. And obviously there's not much money in that league as well, and they've not been given anything like a parachute payment like you get in the English leagues. If you get dropped down for the Premier League, is it something like 140 million you get over the 2 years? I'm not saying you're going to give 140 million Albion Rovers that'd be nice, but let's be honest, if you gave them, say, I don't know, $1 million and say that's the parachute payment, try and get yourself back up, you'd probably get teams trying to get relegated all the time so they could get it. But you know what I mean? They're trying to get that stage where to give teams a chance to actually progress. And I think giving longer leagues, having a 16-team league and then maybe a 24, like Quinny had said, having bigger leagues and more teams in there, giving more opportunity to the other teams, I think that's a better shout.
And here's another thing, just it's off the reconstruction thing that Joseph brings in. You know, state the obvious. This is, I don't mean that in a cheeky way to Joseph, I just mean state the obvious to these other clubs. I know that they've got a wee hardcore contingent of maybe 95 fans that turn up for their game, right? And they don't want Celtic, or they don't want Rangers or Hibs or Hearts or whoever taking most of the stand, right? See if they want to survive, if they want to make coin, because God knows they're not making it through what the league is paying them. They're not making it through what the TV is paying them. Take the money when you can get it. And again, in turn, you might eventually get some more income coming into you. And you know what? You could actually spend that, put a better product on the player. So your 95 folk that come and turn up to watch you might turn into 2,095. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%.
I just don't understand why teams are chopping their nose off to spite their face with us.
Yeah, you look at the game coming at the weekend. Celtic with 6,000 fans going to that, isn't it?
Yes.
Incredible. That's absolutely brilliant for an away support. You think back to games, and it shouldn't really be at this stage of the season, but it always comes down to it when it's getting to the latter stages, and it's kind of, we're going to win the league, but where are we going to win it? So Celtic are looking towards their next game, and you think back to Kilmarnock. Remember, Kilmarnock gave us both the behind the goals.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the Nakamura goal. Remember that? That was brilliant. Loved that. You think back to things like that, and it's a great opportunity, Steve. Like you said, these guys aren't going to fill their stadium because we said it before. They're looking at that game and going, here another scalping on the cards for us. We're up against them, and the fans might not want to go to it. So yeah, you give them the main stand. If you don't sell your allocation and you get in contact with Celtic, and listen, with a week's notice, if you send the tickets back to Celtic, you'll sell them. 100% you'll sell them.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So listen, you could do that, but then does that take away the element of it being a home game for you because you've got more Celtic fans in the stadium than your fans, and you can see that part of it. But for me, as a business, I would be saying, listen, bring them in. 100%. You would take the money.
Yeah, no, definitely. But there's plenty to be thinking here. We're going to need to keep an eye on this one, because the interesting thing is they're actually saying this is something they kind of want to try and get in place as quickly as possible. I think the new season's maybe a bit too early for that, but you never know. Of course, it depends on how fast these negotiations, discussions go. But again, it seems like such a strange time to be discussing this, particularly if they were in that desperation zone where they're thinking we can ram this through for next season. Still get plenty of things to worry about, like the standard of your refereeing and VAR and all that nonsense before you start thinking about adding just more teams. But that's another thing. So moving on to one of the last things before we cover the actual game at the weekend and looking towards the game that's coming up, is of course we have to talk about the child abuse case that has been going on, and there's been settlements. Now, make this abundantly clear, this is an absolutely horrendous situation, and I think that, as we well know, that some of the other people of other teams supporting have a completely horrendous outlook on this. I think that if you want to point score on such a horrendous topic, you need to go and take a proper good look at yourself, because you're an absolute reptile. This is not a laughing matter. This is not a one-upsmanship. This is not even a Celtic matter. This is a cultural of a period, unfortunately. That's 70s through to 90s, as we've seen. This is an infestation of British football at multiple teams, and it's affected countless number of people. And Celtic are just one of those teams who were affected with it. Now, as we've seen, it's came out that 22 of 28 claims have been settled with an agreement. This has not been seen as an admission of guilt or anything like that. It's been an acknowledgement, I think is the term that's been used here, that they should have done better, and it's long overdue. Now, the club actually put out a wee statement regarding it. As you'd imagine, it was directly on the website. It wasn't social medias, because you will get these absolute creatures of the night coming out wanting to comment on it. But here's what they had to say about it. Celtic Football Club can confirm that a number of legal claims and group proceedings against the club have been resolved. We are hopeful that settlement can be reached with the remaining group members shortly. For some time, we've sought to work with group members as lawyers to reach a resolution. The club acknowledges the strength of the survivors of abuse who have come forward and hope that this resolution may help to bring some closure. Celtic Football Club is appalled by any form of historic abuse and has great sympathy for those who suffered abuse and the families. The club is very sorry, and I think that's very, very important that was said, that these events took place as Celtic Boys Club. The club takes the abuse extremely seriously because of the historic contacts between the two organisations. The abuse of young children is an abhorrent crime which unfortunately affected many areas of society. The club continues to work with Scottish football to make it a safe place for all young people. Now, as we well know, this is something that Celtic have been one of the front runners in safeguarding things, certainly, and not immediately, years and years gone by, Celtic have been big players in trying to do the safeguarding thing and make sure that everything's above board, and there's all sorts of protocol put in place, proper vetting and stuff. But as it says, and as I said there, unfortunately, this is a generational thing. This is a deep set cancer that has been rife completely through Britain, not just within sporting organisations, but other. You only need to look at the likes of historic abuse with BBC, the likes of your Savile, Gary Glitter, all those kind of people like that. It's a very, very, very unfortunate situation where people who were in a position one way or another were taking advantage of vulnerable people. Paddy, this is long overdue, isn't it? That Celtic have came out now. They were maybe rightfully getting a lot of criticism where there was this wishy-washy there's nothing to do with us. But the reality is, this was back in the days of handshakes, wasn't it? There was no set boys club. There was no set developmental club. There was local feeder clubs. And as we well know, Celtic were deep embedded with the Celtic Boys Club, where that was players going to events, whether it was providing money for upkeep, whether it was providing shirts, you name it, it was hand in glove. They were involved. Did they know about what was going on? I think it would be remiss to say, no, they didn't, because let's be honest, of that generation, it's horrendous. It was clearly something that was going on. People clearly knew about it, and it was turning a blind eye, completely wrong. It's good to see the club are taking full ownership on this, isn't it?
Yeah, 100% it is, mate. And listen, it's good to see these victims as well get a bit of closure. You can only imagine what it's been like for them as well, and getting dragged out, like you said, it become like a slagging or the sweep, put it under the carpet and things like that, because it was always, like Sam Fran had said in there, it was covered up, it was pushed away. It's something that I don't think anybody wanted to own up to, but it was a skeleton that was there. So listen, they've held their hands up, they've put out an apology, and they've said, yes, listen, this happened under our watch. We apologise for that, and we will financially reimburse people. We will make sure that people are duly compensated for that. And listen, that's it. They've taken ownership of it. They've done what they had to do. Think about it. This is the thing that the other mob had said was going to ruin us. This is why we weren't spending money. We were saving money back because we had this hanging over us. It's something else that we can just say, do you know what? It's not overhanging anymore. It's not hanging over us. And like you said, Steve, it didn't just happen at Celtic Football Club. It happened at teams in the Premier League. It happened across the city and Govan as well. And they forget that. It happened there. There was so many cases there as well. And I think they said that it was the old club. It wasn't the new club. And when you think back to some of these comments, it's ridiculous. It really is. I'm happy that it's been resolved to an extent. Yeah. Obviously, these people are going to have to live with this for the rest of their lives, and it's a struggle. And you could imagine that. And listen, our hearts go out to them. But I just hope now that they can finally get back on with their lives and enjoy watching Celtic if they can.
Well, that's the thing, Joe. We don't want to give the leeches any sort of pleasure. As Paddy says, it's irrelevant, but it just sickens me that people are sitting there and this is their go-to thing. These are people who have had the pathway of their life massively altered. There's people there that are sitting in their late 40s, their 50s. God knows what their life has panned out like off the back of this kind of thing. As it says, it's an agreement. It's a acknowledgement. It's a settlement. It's not compensation per se. It's basically, and again, it's not even shush money. I think it's just common decency to say, listen, this happened, and again, this split the club, the separate entity, and all that garbage. The reality, as we say, is we're harking back to a time where everything was literally just a handshake and a word of mouth.
Yeah.
But they were essentially what the current Celtic Football Club youth setup is. That is it. That is it. It's one of these old school, dodgy things that happened. And it's not going to give these unfortunate souls any sort of closure. No. It's not going to be any sort of justice. But I think just the basicness of acknowledging, apologising, and saying we are now making sure that everything is better so that this will not happen again. It's a good starting point. I believe the fee at this moment in time is says to be around about £2 million. It's irrelevant. It would be £20 million, it would be £10 million, doesn't matter. No. Does not matter. It's all about,
as you say, it's about how
getting something and some sort of acknowledgement.
It's about how people's lives were affected by it, because God knows what that could have done to them mentally, physically, and beyond. We don't know where those people, those players possibly could have been as well. It's frightening and horrible to think about. As Paddy said as well, our thoughts absolutely, and I know you'll join in, Stephen, as well, that our thoughts go out to all the victims and their families, because it affected so many across the city that it's as I say, absolutely frightening and abhorrent, as Celtic even put it themselves as well. Like you say, fees, no fees, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant as long as there is acknowledgement, and we've Celtic in general have held their hands up and gone, yeah, we should have been a bit more vigilant, and that's all that you can do is acknowledge your mistakes and make sure that it never happens again. Make sure
and
that
you
you
know,
move on from
Joe,
it.
I think the most important thing here is it's about taking ownership. As people are saying,
Yeah.
these processes do take a long time. Now, I don't know the whole ins and outs. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert. I don't know if there was initially any level of resistance there. But I think once common sense kicked in, and again, trying to be as forward thinking, transparent, and, you know, leading the way forward, to come out and say, yes, this is what we're going to have to do here. We're going to have to recognise this was on our watch. There was a connection there. It's irrelevant whether it was a legally binding connection or otherwise. I think this is a positive step. This is in the same way where we had like the Me Too movement and things like that. Somebody stepping forward, taking ownership, taking the situation by the scruff of the neck and saying, yes, and making sure that these people are looked after in some way or another and get some sort of acknowledgement of the wrongdoing against them is the important thing. And hopefully more clubs follow. That's all I'm saying about that, Paddy.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I was going to say. I think that's going to start a chain reaction, and I hope it does, not just for the sake of bringing out ammo against anyone. This is not what this is about, and it should have never been used as such. So I think
we'll say that to jump in. I can't stress that enough. It is completely and utterly shameful and embarrassing that there's people who see this as being some sort of slagging, some sort of like point scoring thing, in the same way that you would turn and say, we absolutely hammered Jews 5-0. That's the way these people treat that. That is absolutely pathetic. These are people with lives that have been greatly affected by horrendous crimes. You've got to have common decency. I would like to say on
that as well, it's not just the other side of Glasgow who have said it as well. By the way, I just want to make that clear. I've heard it in my line of work. It's a totally different environment, and there's much said, and people from all walks of life as well, and all over the country. So people have said it from other areas as well. It's not just the other side of Glasgow. So I just want to make that clear that, you know, we're not in particular hammering into one set. No. It includes everyone in this. It shouldn't be used as some sort of ammo or slagging, as we say as well. It's disgusting.
For me, with the way Celtic have dealt with it, Steve, like you say, the transparency for me has been one of the things that I've liked to see. It's nice that they've went about it this way, and to read this statement and actually have in there, Celtic Football Club are sorry that this has happened to people on their watch. Basically, that means a lot. Do you know what I mean? I'm not one of the victims, obviously, but you look at that and you see that from it, that acknowledgement, just to say, listen, hands up. That's decent.
And Paddy, I think the thing that people as well is have got to take focus on in terms of justice now, as we obviously know, there was nearly now past, was in prison, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But that's scant consolation. They're saying settled out of court, and folk will jump on that. It's irrelevant. These people have lived this long enough without having to trudge it up and appear in court or whatever it may well be, give personalised accounts. And I think the fact that there has came an agreement, that it shows that fundamentally, I think these people can't speak for them, obviously, so I don't want to be misquoted here, but if you were in that position, the one thing you would want is acknowledgement. You would want someone to say, we are sorry, we could have done better, plus more, to at least understand where you're come from and take accountability and take ownership. Whatever money that may come the way of these people is irrelevant. That's not what these people want. They want that acknowledgement, and hopefully, just hopefully, it'll allow them to have I don't think you'll ever have true closure, but I'll have some sort of putting a lid on this for them now, where they can feel that they've been vindicated, that they've actually, they've been sort of proven that what's happened was completely out of order and their situation was understood and has actually been listened to and taken seriously. I think all that time down the road, ultimately that's what people wanted to be acknowledged and understood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, listen, you used the word there, Steve, vindication, mate. And that's what it comes down to. These people won't get closure from it, but hopefully they can move on and go on with their lives now. It's something that's been hanging over the club and obviously them for a long time. So, yeah, hopefully they can move on with it, and so can we.
Yeah, well, that's it. We just want to approach that one. Hard topic, not nice, but as we know, we'll never shy away from something. If there's anything out there, we'll talk about it. As I say, I just think it's very positive to see that the club are doing right by these people who have unfortunately been affected by this. And as we say, hopefully the remaining folk will likewise get some sort of closure one way or another by the end of this. And I'm sure the club will update us and that goes. But anyway, from something that was horrendous and not very pleasant to talk about, let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about the weekend. Let's talk about that performance against Hearts with one eye on it there. Paddy back in action at home. It's the exact bounce back ability that we needed, was it not, in that game? And I just want to throw it out. We talked about Daizen Maeda earlier on. For me, Cal McGregor, mate, again, I say it, you didn't know what you've got until it's not there.
Yeah, 100%, mate. We spoke about it after the Glasgow derby and said how he was missed and things like that. And obviously he'd had a few dodgy games coming into the Glasgow derby, and a lot of folks says, he might have had one of their games there. And listen, the captain was back and he done what he done. He done what he does. He dominates the midfield. He gets people into position. He organises people. He just controls that midfield so well. He just gets the best out of the team. And that pass through for Daizen is just phenomenal. It's inch perfect. Obviously, you see Daizen holding his run. As soon as the ball's played through, he's on it in a flash. And do you know what, mate? What a finish as well. That's the finishes that we've been saying. He didn't blast it. He didn't try and hammer it into the back of the net. He took his time. He opened his body up and just placed it beyond the keeper. And that's what you expect for a striker in form. And that's exactly what he is at the minute.
See with Cal McGregor, Joe, the only one thing I really noticed, we were sitting talking about it, was actually watching it. I shouted Irish Fiddler on Tenerife. I'm just back. I get back. I went away there, a wee early birthday present, me and two of my mates. It was the three Stevos on holiday in Tenerife. We watched the Irish Fiddler and we're talking a good few folk about the game, and everybody was saying the exact same thing. Cal McGregor, the one thing that you really noticed, again, that you missed, was he takes up that position he wanted the ball. As soon as the defender's got it, he's turning around, he's looking for the ball, he's making himself available, and then he's driving and he's coming in. And whether that's a pass spraying out to somebody out in the wings, or it is charging and bending that brilliant ball through Maeda for the first one, he just gets everything ticking. And he came back. We were talking before, mate, and saying that we thought that he looked at a guy who played a lot of football, obviously took a wee knock. He was looking a bit tired legs.
Yeah. Well,
he looked rejuvenated.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe that's what it was. Paddy was talking about it there. That the past couple of games before the derby, he just wasn't quite looking himself and everything. Maybe he ran the legs off himself, which I totally understand, because the way that he plays, as you say, he's asking for the ball every 2 seconds. He's making sure that the defenders have a nice clear path for him or someone on the wing, and he's making sure he commands that position absolutely perfectly. The likes of your Engels, Hatsute, Bernardo even as well, they don't tend to do that, getting it off the defender straight away, kind of left to fend for themselves and get it up the wing. And it just doesn't work, or the odd time that it does work, it's still needing a good recovery in the midfield anyway. So, it was good to see him back. And as you say, I think he was on top form. I think he was out there with a point to prove, and he definitely done so. In
terms of the other guys that we got on, quite interesting. Norotsky maintains his place, right? Very, would I say, surprised, because Trusty's on the bench. We know he's not really injured.
Yeah.
But Nawrocki, again, I thought he'd done pretty well against Rangers. I was quite satisfied with what I saw there. Other people were saying not so much. Other people were saying it was fantastic. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I certainly think that it was a good opportunity to give him a game. He maintained his place, and obviously Sinisalo in the sticks, as we know, by default. Some good early saves early on there, some right good stops. I heard some criticisms, Paddy, about his distribution, but again, I don't know how much I put that down to the levels of pressure that we put on our goalkeeper with us shitting it across the back and constantly back to the goalkeeper. But if he didn't have a pass on, he wasn't fair to put his foot through, and I liked it. What was your thoughts of the Sinisalo and Nawrocki performances, mate?
Sinisalo, the save he made for the header, that was quite close in, and he gets down very well to kind of palm it out. Absolutely fantastic. I thought his distribution on the deck wasn't as good, but it was nice to see a keeper who wasn't afraid to, like you said, Steve, punt the ball up the park and go a bit route one, because that's something that we don't get for Casper. Casper gives the ball all the time. It's out to either Alistair Johnson or Jeffrey Schlupp or Greg Taylor, whoever's on either of the fullback positions, and it was nice to see somebody put their foot through the ball. Sinisalo commanded his box, I think, from corners as well. He was there, he was out, and he was very vocal.
Took the words in my mouth. I liked how vocal he was. For a guy that's not been playing a lot of football, he was shouting, he was directing the traffic, telling folk where they need to be, and if there was an error in there, he was having a word in their ear, and that's what you need. You don't want somebody to come in with a shrinking violet.
No, 100%, mate. And you seen it as well. I watched an interview with him, and they had said about, obviously, what's it like training with Kasper Schmeichels and things like that, and he said basically Kasper was his idol. It's what he had said. He's like, this is a guy who I've looked up to. So to be in training and learning from him is outstanding. He says it's something that he looks forward to going to training every day because he's working with guys like that. And that's nice. That's refreshing to see that he's actually taking it in and he's learning for somebody that he idolises, essentially. I thought he done incredible for coming in. I was a bit worried about it because previously, obviously with Joe Hart and whatever else, but I mean, we've had Barkas, we've had a few other absolute Snyders in there, and you look at it and I thought, do you know what? You put Scott Bain in and there'd been absolute chaos. But I thought the wee man come in, I thought he'd done really, really well. You said about Nawrocki as well. That's the second game where he's pretty much been on and he's played well. I thought he, again, had a kind of commanding performance. I thought when he got the ball, he looked quite comfortable on it. I thought in the air, he wins his headers. He looks quite a strong player. He's not going to be shoved off the ball quite easily. I think Trusty offers you a little bit more in the air. I think he's more of an aerial presence, but I think on the deck, you're probably more reliable with Nawrocki, if that makes sense. I think he looks quicker than what Trusty does. I think sometimes Trusty can look like he's towing a tractor when he turns around and things like that. But I think Nawrocki has that bit of turn of pace about him. I think he's actually, I think he's got a wee bit in there. So it's going to be interesting going forward because obviously Brendan had said that Liam Scales is back doing non-contact training and stuff. So listen, you're going to have Scales, Carter, Vickers, Trusty, and Nawrocki all basically fighting for these two positions, and it's decent to have, and that's exactly what you need, especially coming into this latter stage of the season.
Yeah. See, in terms of the performances there, Sinisalo and maybe more so Nawrocki, not to discredit, because I thought it was a tidy performance. I quite liked some of the saves and the movement of the Sinisalo. Nawrocki, as you say, I felt that any time that he was asked a question, he by and large dealt with it with no fanfare whatsoever. But again, I've seen the comments coming in. It's some of this maybe to do, Joe, with how absolute dog shit their strike force was, and including, I believe he was winning last year's Player of the Year, Warren Shankland. By God, man, you want to talk about falling off the end of a cliff?
Shankland was absolutely terrible. The other boy, is it Kabungo or Kabungo or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
He just
Cowabunga.
sat on the ground every 2 seconds, wasn't he?
Exactly. 100%. That's what I was going to say. And I was at the game for anyone else who might have been or not. But the way as well that he just kept diving at Carter Vickers' feet.
Yeah.
So Carter Vickers has probably been, he's in the comments there, been brought into question or struggling at times. Carter Vickers wasn't struggling. The fact of the matter is he couldn't move without the ref's whistle going off in his pocket because it was just ridiculous every time anyone came near him.
And I don't want to talk about the ref, but Clancy was red drawn over.
It's
I mean,
absolutely
my God.
Just
Absolute
embarrassing. Embarrassing is how I would put it. It's an embarrassment to be a Scottish ref.
Yeah.
for
Every time
that.
time there was a touch, he was stopping for a foul, but not backing up. I believe it was Grant he was saying on there. That's been 5 now for Carter Vickers. Surely there's a card in the post if you think it's that consistent.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was the thing. For me, what he tried to do was slow the game down. He tried to basically nullify Celtic because, listen, everybody knows how we play our football. High intensity, high pace. We want to be going at it hammer and tongs for 90 minutes. And he basically slowed it down at every single chance he could. I'm not saying there was bias in there from him. If he thought there was anything in the challenges, then, like they said, he should have produced the cards to back it up. But he knew.
Should have gone to Specsavers.
He should have, mate. Said it on his sleeve as well. I thought he had, but
exactly.
He didn't bother.
Aye, that's terrible. But I thought a decent outing. First half very strong. Petered off a wee bit in the second half without any sort of real drama. Still 1 or 2 guys on the pitch. I think that it was good to see Jota getting a goal. I think he maybe went a wee bit over the top with the celebration. I think he was maybe just happy to have get on the score sheet. But Jota, he still looks a wee bit unfit, but we'll take that. He's been largely decent enough. Kuhn's the one, Paddy, that I want to bring back up again because, again, ropey for him. He's wee bust in that game where he looks like he's making it happen. But in the same way when I was talking about Hatsute, and again, I'm not trying to sell players here, I'm just based on what I've seen. He looks like a guy to me that, for one reason or another, looks like he's got one leg out the door. I don't know. He just recently, he looks as if he's sort of checked out a wee bit, and I don't really know why. I can't put my finger on it, mate.
Yeah, listen, he started off on a flyer, didn't he? He kind of come in at the beginning of the season and was the player to beat. If you'd asked me 5 games or 6 games into the season who was going to win Player of the Year, you'd have said Nicholas Kuhn or Callum McGregor probably. But listen, that would have been the 2 that it was between. I don't think Daizen would have had a look in at that point. Nicholas Kuhn was the guy who was banging in the goals, getting the assists. He was always there. He was putting all the pressure on, and I think he's died off a little bit. But listen, he gets that assist as well, and I think when you still look at it, you still look at his numbers and what he does in a game. There is still those elements there. I think the cut inside and the shots become a bit predictable. I think teams are now doubling up on that because they know what's going to happen. So I think that he's maybe became a bit too predictable. If that's a choice of words that I want to be using there, but listen, we know there's a player there. We know what he can do when he gets to the byline, when he bursts, when he uses that pace and the ball sticks to him. He's got the ability, he's got the skill to take on 3-4 players. But when people are doubling up on him all the time, it's obviously difficult, and obviously you see him starting to be nullified. I think that's how our first goal comes through the middle, was because our wingers, Jota and Kuhn, were getting doubled up on. So I think obviously that's when Callum's took it in his own game and went, right, wait a minute, I'll go direct. And that's basically he's put the ball through direct to Daizen. And when we get the goal, I think then it opens up a little bit. And that's when we start to see them not doubling up on Kuhn. And then obviously we get more opportunities down the wings from there.
I just hope that he's a guy that's not had a wee sort of purple patch flash in the pan. Again, I'm all for it. I think I agree. I would have said that if you had said up to January who's going to be player of the season at the club, and also just for the sort of general writers, player and all that, because I would have definitely said Nicholas Kuhn. I don't quite know what's happened there. I would hope that it's not been a case that he has maybe bought into all this speculation that was swirling about in January and teams and heads turned and all that nonsense, because that would be extremely disappointing. I don't want it to be another sort of Jota type situation where, admittedly, I think Jota was, far more superior player when he decided to go. But you get where I'm going with this, that he's maybe seen that there's potentially something there and then wants to move on to other things. It would be sad to see, but again, there's still plenty of game time for him to pick it back up. But I wouldn't like to think that this is him sort of blowing his football and load, so to speak, and he's had his wee patch and now he's back to being just sort of the guy that we originally signed, or the guy who's journeymaned around various teams and never truly made massive impacts. He's been at a team, he's a right solid wee period and then dropped off and then moved on. Don't want it to be that way. I don't want it to be another sort of Haksabanovic type situation, albeit I don't think Haksabanovic ever had as decent a spell as that, but it is what it is. Just finally touch on that. Forrest, Bernardo back. Good to see him back on the pitch. Yes. Decent options. I thought tidy substitution performances without setting the head on fire, Joe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Forrest did a nice wee run down towards the box in the latter stages of the second half, which was promising, and it seemed, I've seen a bit of pace in him again and stuff like that as well. Got me excited, as we know, I'm a big Forrest fan.
Dead excited, weren't you?
Dead excited, mate. I'm really so excited. I was so very excited. But no, it was great to see that he's got his fitness level on the right path at the very least. Bernardo again, didn't set the world on fire, but wasn't a terrible performance either. What was he, 27 minutes or something like that, if even, that he played. So you can't expect too much to happen in that time from a midfielder, but at the same time, he took up the mantle pretty well. So yeah, happy with how it went.
No, as we say, so Peter out. We get a bit of DaizenMaeda time. I guess still more needs to be seen from him there. But all over, I thought that was a pretty decent performance. As we look towards the game against St Johnstone, just to wrap things up, what's the thinking, Paddy, getting into this one? Sinisalu obviously remains in the team, as we well know. Do we maintain the Nawrocki thing? Does that continue to go down? And in terms of other positions, if you were asking me, I would probably like to give Bernardo an outing. I would probably rotate him out for Hatsute. And I would also probably like to give Yang a start over Nicholas Kuhn for the aforementioned that we've seen. Do you think guys like Nawrocki and that have earned the right to continue playing?
100%. I think obviously Sinisalu is going to start. I think your back four has to be Jeffrey Schlupp, Nawrocki, Carter-Vickers and Alistair Johnson. Going into the midfield, I think it'll be a start for Bernardo. I think Hatsute will probably be dropped. I think that Engels and McGregor will keep their place in there. I don't think he'll start Yang ahead of Kuhn. I think that's maybe one to bring off the bench at some point. I think it'll be again Jota and Daizen up front. I look at that and it's probably our strongest side when you think about it. Is they three up front, so you can't really deviate from it too much. I think obviously the defensive partnership that Nawrocki and Carter-Vickers are starting to build seems quite strong. It seems like it's one that could possibly progress. We spoke about Nawrocki before, Steve, and it looked like he was made of glass. Every time somebody came near him, he went down, and that was him out for another 3-4 weeks, and then he'd come back for another 10-minute appearance, and then he'd be off again. He's starting to get the minutes in now. So hopefully this is the end of that period that he's been going through, and hopefully we can start to see what type of player he is. So I'm quite excited to see him, actually, to see him progress. Because like every other Celtic fan, we want to see the best in each of our players. I'm excited again to see Arnie Engels, to see what he's going to do again, see if he can do what he's been doing, see if he can progress any further. I think, again, listen, Bernardo coming back has to be the man step in there. I think it's about
I want to see it.
I think it's about time Hatsute was dropped and realised that his position isn't secure. It's that he's not just going to be shooting in because he's had it too easy for a while. And I think that's how the kind of lethargic players, the play that he's been playing, I mean, that's how that's kind of sneaked in there. I think it's he's thought that his position's been cemented on. So for a bit of competition to be in there, I think that he's got to start Bernardo in there. Yeah. I'd like to see Jamesy Forrest also get a wee cameo as well, and so would Joe. Do you know what I mean? I think when James come on, he did show that he's still got that passion. He's still got that bite about him. He was busting forward. He was taking players on, and he's still got that touch. Do you know what I mean? It's, as much as people love to hate him, he's a fantastic servant for the club, and you can't not like him. He's just one of their players, isn't he?
And yourself, Joe?
Well, I just wonder,
this game, any change you happy with?
I just wonder, in a slightly lower stake game in the position that we're in at the minute anyway, what I would actually be interested in seeing is Kuhn and Jota switching wings. And that might sound a bit strange, but as we spoke about there, Paddy, and I've said it now on countless of these podcasts too, that Kuhn's move to the middle is far too predictable. So if we can use that beautiful left foot of his to get a nice cross in the box, is that maybe going to serve us a little bit better? Maybe not this season now, but next season going forward, could it be something to possibly look into? Is it something that maybe they've even spoke about before?
I suppose
we'll never know, but
we've seen the players switch during the game.
We've seen it switch during the game, yeah.
I don't think Brendan's going to start a left footer on the left. Essentially, it's not really what he does, isn't it? You've always got that. I know. It's the kind of inverted roles, and you think back to previously, it's always been something that's there. So I can see it. Yes, I think I would probably stick with Jota on the left and Kuhn on the right, and then invert it during the game to cause a bit of upset and a bit of confusion between the opposition centre halves.
Well, other than that, Nawrocki played as well. I'm happy for him to stay in the team. Definitely, Bernardo through the middle is going to be.
I think if you can maintain some of the players in there and also do a wee bit of rotation against St Johnstone, no disrespect, they'll take them seriously, but they're a team that are pretty much, down in the rock and pretty much out to go. But no, we'll see how it pans out. The Baddies play Hibs. That's going to be a right interesting game.
That will be interesting.
I believe they're playing at Snake Mountain at 3 o'clock on Saturday, so they'll be ahead of us. And I not to touch on them, it could maybe change the complexion of what a win in this game could do, as we know we're potentially one step closer to winning the league should we win that, regardless if they win it. But the way that they've been playing, Hibs have been playing pretty good. They could be a fly in the ointment. I'm not going to hold my breath, but do you think the staunch are going to drop any points at the weekend potentially? Because by God, they should have certainly done it against Dundee, and that was quite frankly embarrassing.
Don't even
talk about an arse collapsing. Listen, it happens, doesn't it? I had messaged a few of my pals that were hounding me after the Glasgow Derby game. I was a wee bit premature once it went to 3-1. I thought, have that. And then, that come back to bite me in the arse. But, listen, Hibs are one of the teams that are going to cause anybody a bit of problems. Martin Boyle loves a goal against them, doesn't he? If I was a gambling man, I think that would be my bet. Martin Boyle to score and Hibs to win. I'd be quite happy to put my neck out on the line there.
We don't need any favours. We need to take care of business ourselves. But I do want to see this pantomime get derailed and see if it's not going to be anybody else. As we've said before, I know it's further down the line, probably the end of the month, but we need to do it because I'm getting absolutely fed up with it. I'm getting fed up with the chest pounding and all this and this. I'm fed up of hearing the term my staff in the bin. Fed up with it. I want a thorough, a demoralising. That's what I want. I want them to make an arse here, arse collapsing, Celtic smashing St Johnstone, happy days, beautiful Sunday and all that. But anyway,
scarves in the bin, full shebang.
Scarves in the bin, Wayne's greeting in the stand. Full shoot match. I mean, I want a total boo fest. Booed off the pitch at half time. Boo!
Everyone leaving at 70th minute.
Nah, it's not going to happen. But that's it. So anyway, listen, we're nearly about an hour and a half. It says, thank you very much to those that are joining us. Likewise, if you're watching this retrospectively, thanks for continuing to support the channel. Before you go, it says we're just short of 1,600. This is our first year. This is our first show, being a big grown-up 1-year-old on the podcasting world. So thanks to everybody for taking the time to do it. Help the community grow. Here's to another year, guys. Here's to more exciting content, hopefully, and more of you guys tuning in regularly, sit and watch us. So anyway, we're done for the night. Game of the weekend. Maybe these two guys will cover it either Sunday or Monday. I unfortunately away. I turned the bold 40 on Saturday. I know I don't look it. All my own hair, all my own teeth. What a guy.
Aye, rub it in, why don't you? For sake.
So I...
So he's a 32-year-old, by the way.
I shall be away. And will not be able to cover it. I'll be doing something nice for my birthday. So hopefully you guys will pop up and do that. I'm sure you will do that.
Yeah,
I'm sure you will do that. I'm sure. So anyway, that's this. Check it out. Enjoy the game. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. And as always, Paddy.
Hail, hail, guys.
Hail, hail.